Today's lesson is drugs, use, abuse, and addiction. Today's lesson is drugs, use, abuse, and addiction. So, how is substance abuse portrayed in cartoons? Just a couple of really humorous hashtags like Got Munchies, Criminal Record, Try It Just Once, Friend Fail, Tough Call, Drugs, Savings, right? These are all things that are associated with the use of drugs. So, the term drug refers to any substance that is taken to change the way the body and or mind functions. So examples include alcohol, Ritalin, ecstasy, marijuana. So it's just the way the body changes how it works, right? So understand that some of these drugs really play a role in changing the psychological aspects of the way you think and react to things. Now, two terms we often hear when talking about drugs are substance abuse and addiction. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that every time we take something that is considered addiction, but again, exposing yourselves to these things can unfortunately lead to the possibility of substance abuse or even addiction. So, when someone uses drugs in a way they are not intended to be used, obtains them from illegitimate sources, uses more than the recommended dosage, or when drug usage affects their daily life activities, relationships negatively, it's referred to as substance abuse. So, substance abuse is when you are doing more than you need to be taking, when your typical daily life, your activities, your relationships are all being affected in a negative way by this so-called drug of choice. So if it's affecting your ability to get up in the morning, right, that's a negative effect. If you're in a relationship and it's affecting the way you speak in your relationship, it's having a negative effect. If you enjoyed being active, like going to the gym or going for jogs, and now all of a sudden you don't because you're on your mind, you're thinking, hey, let me take this. Again, it is a negative impact, and that is considered substance abuse. So a drug addiction refers to when someone engages in regular long-term drug use despite knowing the risks of doing so. That is considered a drug addiction. The user may have a psychological dependence or a physical dependence and may experience withdrawal symptoms if they don't consume the drug within a certain period of time. So all of a sudden, maybe they might become very irate, very depressed, because all of a sudden, like, they're thinking of their next high. Now, when someone continues to use drugs over a period of time, they may develop a tolerance. So over time, taking too much of something will develop a tolerance to that drug. So their body becomes used to the drug and requires eventually larger doses to achieve that same effect that you once had maybe in the beginning. Right? So point is, don't do drugs. Anyhow, most drugs can be broken down into these three categories. Stimulants. So these are drugs that make the user very hyper, very alert. So some examples: cocaine, speed, caffeine, nicotine. Yes, caffeine is considered a stimulant drug. Nicotine found in cigarettes, as well as e-cigarettes, which we will be talking about in future lesson. The second category are depressants, and these are drugs that cause the user's body and mind to slow down. Alcohol is a drug that will cause people to cause their body and mind to slow down. Hence the reason why it is a no to drink and drive. Another one that I don't have here is marijuana. Okay, cannabis. It too is a depressant. That's why when people take it in, their body and minds will slow down. Others are opiates like painkillers, heroin, hypnotics, inhalants. And the final category here, hallucinogens. These are drugs that disrupt a user's perception of reality and cause them to imagine experiences and objects that seem real. So all of a sudden, they're the possibility of hallucinating. Drugs like hallucinogens are LSD, crystal meth, ketamine, and shrooms. Why do people use drugs? Peer pressure, right? Or looking to belong to a certain group. You're looking to make friends, and you want to be friends with a group of people who seem to enjoy doing this stuff on the side. So to fit in, you might want to do it. Other reasons people do drugs: relaxation or even pleasure, relax or feel more lively and friendly. Curiosity, wondering about a drug effects and the desire to experiment. Maybe sometimes some people will take it to boost their self-esteem. They're attempting to feel stronger or more self-confident. Others may take it as a coping mechanism to help deal with stress or to forget about problems, right? Some people will drink to maybe try to deal with their stresses and forget about their problems. Maybe another reason for using, way to rebelling against parents, maybe rebelling against authority, might be a reason to take drugs, or might be the reason why some people will take drugs. Mental illness, to knowingly or unknowingly deal with symptoms of mental illness that has or has not yet been diagnosed. So just the idea of trying to deal with some of the symptoms. Mental illness is a serious situation. We talked about it in one of the previous lessons. If you are having issues with mental illness, please seek help. Do not be scared to reach out. And finally, last reason for maybe people using drugs: boredom. There are 4 categories of drugs available. We've got legal drugs, prescription drugs, illegal drugs, and illegal synthetic drugs. And we're going to talk about each one of these and give some examples. So, legal drugs include drugs that are regulated yet legal to consume when done so within the limits of regulation. So maybe a doctor's prescription, maybe just kind of, well, hey, I might drink a little bit to kind of feel a little off edge, and whatever it might be. Now, these products can be consumed legally, and they can still produce undesirable effects on one's health, their body, and their social lives. So just because they are legal doesn't necessarily mean that they are just openly safe to use. Here is a list. We've got alcohol, tobacco, and cigarettes. We've got cannabis. We've got caffeine and energy drinks, and inhalants. These are all considered legal drugs. If you open up the Google slide, you can click on any one of these to learn a little more about each one. Prescription drugs are drugs that are regulated by the federal government of Canada under the Canadian Food and Drugs Act, the Canadian FDA. The CFDA is a regulation system for pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products such as cough syrup, painkillers, etc. For more information on prescription drugs like anabolic steroids, painkillers, stimulants, and tranquilizers, feel free to click here in the Google slide. Illegal drugs. Illegal drugs are usually produced, grown, or manufactured for sale on the street and used mainly for recreational purposes. They're often chemical products or other substances that, when ingested, produce a mind-altering effect. Some examples of some illegal drugs are cocaine, crack, magic mushrooms, heroin, hash, and hash oils. Marijuana used to be one here in Canada, but now it has become legalized. We are going to talk a little more about marijuana in a future lesson. And you can feel free to click here to learn a little bit about illegal drugs and its negative effects on the mind and body. And lastly, illegal synthetic drugs. Illegal synthetic drugs refer to drugs that are man-made, often designed to mimic the effects of other illegal drugs. So most are created by mixing common and illegal substances in specific doses. So these are all manufactured, synthetically created illegal drugs like methamphetamines, ecstasy, LSD, GHB, PCP, ketamine, bath salts, spice. The list goes on and on. And again, on the Google slide, feel free to click here to learn a little bit more about these illegal synthetic drugs.
I hope you liked this video. If you did, do not be shy to hit that thumbs up button. And while you're clicking the thumbs up, click on that subscribe to stay tuned to my new videos. Thanks for watching.